Good evening. It is 5:30 and we're going to call the Board of Health meeting to order. So I'd like to remind you to turn your cell phones to silent or vibrate. And then let's please stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Chris, would you take the roll, please?
Councilmember Rowe?
Here.
Councilmember Stevens?
Here.
Councilmember Berg? Here. Councilmember Dalby?
Here.
Councilmember Myers?
Here.
Mayor Lazio?
Here.
Approve the minutes for meeting number 2 on April 6th, 2021 as presented. Recommendation, approve the minutes.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
This is the time, place, and date set to consider condemnation of the structures on the property located at 512 North Green in the city of Ottumwa, Wapello County, Iowa.
This is a public hearing, so we'll call on Zach Simonson to give us some background.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. This hearing is to consider the condemnation for 512 North Green. The property was placarded on April 13th, 2018, due to a lack of utilities and housing code deficiencies that the inspector could see on an exterior inspection. Following an interior inspection, the inspector completed a deficiency list identifying several issues on the interior as well, including a deficient electrical and HVAC system, damage to walls, floors, and ceilings. Since the placarding, the property has changed ownership twice, which has extended the case duration as each new owner was given an opportunity to cure deficiencies. The current owners did not respond to a request to provide a repair plan as was required by city code, and the city's had to mow the grass at the property. The property remains in violation of the code, and a condemnation notice was served by certified mail and by posting on the property and in the Ottumwa Courier. We did serve a notice to the tenant or to the owners at the address 512 North Green, which was the address of record at the time of the title search, at the time a title search was prepared for this property. We did have some owners here today, and they'd like to speak that they don't check the mail at that building, and that they say they did not receive that notice. I don't know if the attorney might have an opinion on that. I was just made aware of that now. I would still be, or I guess I'd probably just like to turn it over to them to have an opportunity to speak as well, and to discuss the recommendation.
This is a public hearing, so if we have Yahara Cervantes.
The only letters
Speak right into the microphone so it'll pick it up. Thank you.
the only letter that I received to the address that I live in is this form right here, and it doesn't say anything about having to request a plan of how we were going to fix that. My dad was made aware of that, and he came and he talked, but he doesn't understand much English, and he got the point of where he was told he had 6 months to fix the apartments, and that's all he understood. I work from 4 a.m. to 4 p.m., so I didn't really have time to stop here and talk. So my dad came in. He lives in Illinois. So he also didn't receive any letters. Due to weather, it being too cold, we had nothing to do at the apartments. So we weren't going to the address, so we had no idea of these letters being hung up at the door.
Okay. Thank you very much. Council, is there anyone else that wants to address the council on this particular item? Okay, then I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Condemn the structures located at 512 North Green, order prompt demolition, removal, and leveling of the lot, and direct all costs attendant to such actions, including administrative costs, to be assessed against the property and/or collected from the owner or owners thereof. Recommendation: approve the condemnation of the structures located at 512 North Green.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Okay. Any questions for Zach or for the parties that were here?
Yes, I had a question. I know you said that the cities had to mow the property, so clearly, so has there, if they live out of state, or is there anyone who is supposed to be maintaining the property then?
Right.
Since obviously it hadn't been attended to.
Right. So the owners, I have Juvenal Marquez met with Jeff Hammond and Jake Rush at the property on February 24th. And according to the notes in the file, they told him that something needed to happen with the property fast because of its condition or it would face condemnation. And they instructed him to complete a repair plan. We also sent a letter February 3rd. We also posted the notice on the building. The expectation with a placard case isn't that you can wait because the weather is bad. These were issues, including issues on the interior, that had to be addressed, whether it was winter or not. And none of these were addressed. We would expect that people would come to see at some point during that month that a notice was posted on the door of the building for this hearing as well. And we did publish the notice in the Courier. I don't know if, as far as our legal responsibility, if we should have served a notice to a different address. Maybe Christine could weigh in on that. But we did provide notice according to the policy and according to my understanding of the code. And no one was taking care of the property as they should have been in that time.
I have a question, Your Honor.
Go ahead, Skip.
How long have these folks had this in their name or been transferred to them?
It looks to me as if, from the notes on the file, it would have sold, excuse me. Sometime between July, when it was posted for sale on Facebook, and August of 2020.
Thank you.
So Mayor, I have a question.
Go ahead, Mr. Mark.
So Zach, according to our information, this then goes clear back to 2018.
Correct.
And then all of these pictures, which are horrible. I mean, I just wonder how it could even be fixed in the second place. But are these pictures accumulative since 2018, or are they more recent, or what?
The pictures are those taken at the most recent inspection, which I think there's a date on the bottom. The exterior pictures are March 18th, and then the interior pictures are on February 24th of this
Okay, I
year.
see that. Yeah, but, oh, that's terrible. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Zach, did you say these were apartments? Did the owners say they were apartments, or did you refer to them as apartments?
I don't know when they would have last been used as apartments. I believe that it's a multi-tenant building. It hasn't obviously been in use since 2018, but it would have been multi-tenant before then.
From the looks of the damage in the pictures and stuff, looks like there's quite an undertaking there to even repair it back to where it would be livable and meet the city's requirements. Do you think that's possible?
If you set aside, I suppose, realistic constraints around cost, you could conceivably do it eventually, I suppose. There's nothing in it that can't be fixed by somebody who's willing to spend the money and take the time to fix it. That hasn't happened over the last 3 years.
Well, and the reason I ask is because I would, at this point, when the owners are sitting here, I would take them at being the ones responsible for it. And if they haven't had ownership, but for, well, it hadn't even been a year, a bit 6, 8 months. I know we've let up properties go a lot longer than that, years. And I know the prices of building materials right now is astronomically high. The pictures do speak volumes to the amount of work that needs to be done. But you don't think that there's you hadn't seen any progress since the February meeting with the owners, anything at all being tackled or done? Was there another inspection after that before we brought this to council?
Right.
See
So
if there's
the
anything.
February 24th was the last inspection that anyone was at. We did send a final notice to submit a repair plan. And since no repair plan was returned, and the property had been placarded for so long, the new owners had it for at least 6 months. The inspector pursued the title search and began the condemnation. It's difficult for me to decide about a recommendation because I do, like you said, know that property owners are given more than 8 months from time to time. And what is frustrating is that the owners didn't do anything over this winter. The expectation can't be that you can sit on them for months and months, and especially when you've got interior issues that you could have addressed. If the council does want to give the owners additional time, I'd understand that, especially if there is concern around the notice. I just hope that we can make it very clear by having this discussion tonight that the expectation be the work's done quickly and well.
One quick question, and I'll be done. Zach, do you feel, or did the inspector feel that when they had a conversation with the owner that he got the general idea? I know that language barriers are kind of an issue and they're legitimate, and also know that people, don't get things done like they should, follow city code. I know that very well after being on the council 7 years. But do you think, in your opinion, he understood?
I spoke to Jake Rush today. He was not the primary inspector on the file. Jeff Hammond was, and he was out sick today. But he and Jeff were both at that inspection on February 23rd. And what Jake told me was he didn't think there was any confusion about the expectation. But I wasn't there personally.
Right.
And was that the owner themselves or another representative?
I believe it was Juvenal. Is that correct for you? Who was? Yes.
Okay, council, Mark?
Can we get a legal weigh in on the communication, as specifically about them not being there to receive that communication?
Maria, I don't know if you heard all that, but we're asking about the notice procedure. The family indicated that they did not receive the notice. It was sent to the address and posted at the address, but we followed the policy as Zach has already mentioned. So any opinion from you as to are we in solid ground or are we on poor notice procedure?
Yeah, so the ordinance indicates that the director has to send a letter by certified mail on the return receipt requested addressed to each known owner, tenant, and any other person known to have a property interest in the real estate in question. It doesn't indicate whether or where that address is to be determined, but typically the county record for the address would be a sufficient place to locate that address. I'm not sure whether that is the policy of the city or not, but that would be one place to look. The law requires that if there is some indication that the city should engage in further due diligence in locating a person who is required to be served by certified mail, that additional measures be taken. So for example, if a person were known to be incarcerated, certainly certified mail to the person's last known address would not be sufficient. But the standard is that service by certified mail is completed when it is sent to the correct address of record for the property owner. It sounds to me as though that was done.
Do we have those receipts in the file?
So we do have the notice to abate with the certified mail tags on it, that those were sent. Our process is to send the title report to the attorneys, and then they prepare the notice to abate with the correct addresses. and then we send those out by certified mail, as was done here.
Your Honor, I guess I take, Zach very seriously, and I know that he's very professional and does a very thorough job. I honestly, seeing how, we've paneled cases in the past, I wouldn't be objected to giving him 6 months to try to show something. I think there's a lot of issues here that we can't get total clarification on, and since there's a language barrier among other things here, I know we have other homes across the city that are just as bad, and we're not sitting before them tonight. So I would do whatever the council, I'll go with whatever the council agrees to do, but I would not be objected to giving him a little bit of an extension so that there's no question that all the T's have been crossed and all the I's have been dotted, that this is, something they can't rehabilitate.
I'd like to weigh in on this. I wouldn't object to a little bit of an extension, but I'm not willing to go 6 months. I would say 30 to 60 days to show some progress. And if it isn't shown, it's done. I can't believe that somebody that has a property and doesn't know that they get mail there or whatever. Like I said, I'm in favor of 1 or 2 months. Better show some progress and show it quick, or I'm done.
So I guess my question would be more towards the owner of the property. Does the owner of the property feel that they can make substantive progress in the next 30 to 60 days, or whether they feel that they'll have to wait 6 or 8 months to actually make significant enough progress to pull this out of the condition that it's in now?
He says that he can within 30, 60 days get some things done here to show that he can. He says 3 months.
So in 3 months, he thinks he can make some noticeable improvement.
Progress. He's gonna switch in towards Windows. Things like that. Show some progress.
So I guess my follow-up question to Zach would be, what does the city consider would be significant enough progress to show that they're making a solid effort?
So I'm going to look at the deficiency list, which was updated February 24th. What I would like to do is follow a similar process to what we try to do with every case, which is to have the owner submit a 6-month repair plan and have that repair plan realistically reflect month by month things that are on the deficiency list that they can address. And if they can show that they follow the first parts of that plan, they could choose which elements they think are the most realistic time-wise. But if they can follow the first parts of that plan, and then we still have the subsequent parts of the plan put together. If you're looking at a 6-month repair plan and you're going to realistically complete all these items, then you want to say within 3 months that you're going to have half of them done. Whether that means half of them are all crossed out or there's progress made on 75% of them, that those are different things, but you'd expect to have it halfway done in 3 months if you're going to have 6 months to do it.
Mayor, I'd like to weigh back in also. It really concerns me that we on the council are aware that this has been, not this particular case, but these types of things, there's a pattern. Somebody takes it, then they sell it to somebody else, and they sell it to somebody else, and they sell it to somebody else. And then we get pictures like this, and then we still want to make more concessions. And I just wonder, with Skip, with all the work on nuisances and trying to get these things straightened up, and here we are again, and I feel bad, except that we've seen this over and over again. How many owners, and yet nothing is done. So I'm not in favor of an extension, but.
We do have a motion on the floor. It's been made and seconded to accept the recommendation. Are you ready to vote on that? And then if you want to give any other consideration, you can do that. Make another motion. So the motion is to approve the condemnation of the structures located at 512 North Green. Moved and seconded. Are you ready to vote? Take the roll, please.
Councilmember Rowe?
No.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
No.
Councilmember Dalby?
No.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
So at this point, it looks like the
Motion fails.
motion fails. So at this point, we will not accept the recommendation. Is there any other action you want to take at this point?
Your Honor, I guess I'd propose a motion that, that they submit, a repair plan within the 6-month window that Zach talked about, whatever he deems appropriate, and that they're clear that if that is not, progression isn't made month by month, that we are right back here. And this is serious. This is the last chance. But I think there's just too many. There's a couple of loose ends here. There's a couple language issues here. I think I'd feel more comfortable if they had one last opportunity. A lot of the people who stand before us don't have that barrier, and it's pretty clear to me that that decision's made quickly. But I would propose maybe an amendment to give a 6-month repair plan and to show progress, and then revisit it at that point.
Is there a certain amount of time you want to specifically?
I'd rely on Zach to maybe give a recommendation on the amount of time it would take.
I would say I would suggest a repair plan within 30 days, 50% completion of said repair plan in 3 months.
Yeah, that's kind of what I meant. just
Complete, a full completion within 6 months.
6 months.
And
Yeah.
a hard and set date, or hard and,
Go with
that's
their
it.
motion.
I could live with that, I guess, but it better be something done within the 60 days or 90 days.
Okay, so I have a motion by Matt to give a plan in 30 days and 6 months with 50% completion, or work with Zach to get that done. Is there a second to that?
I think that the motion was actually to be completed in 6 months, not 50% completed. That's the way I heard it.
Enough to remove the placard, right?
Right.
I think that's our intent.
Did you hear completed?
I heard a 6-month repair plan.
Yeah.
That's all I heard Councilman Dalby say.
We wanted a repair plan submitted
Councilperson
sooner.
Berg said
Yeah.
50% completed within 3 months, and then enough to remove the placard after 6.
You had a better motion.
So which motion are we going with,
Holly's.
Councilperson Berg?
Yeah, Councilperson Berg.
Well, Matt made the first motion, and was that seconded?
No, it was not.
So I need a second before we can have any further discussion on it, or it dies.
I'll second.
Thank you, Holly. All right, now let's be sure we're clear about the motion. I heard a 30-day plan and 50% completed within 6 months, and working
Within
with Zach.
3, isn't it? 50% within
That's
3?
what Councilperson Berg said.
But Matt made the motion. So are you okay with that, Matt?
I'm okay with the motion that they submit a repair plan immediately and have the majority of the work completed in 6 months to remove the placard, at 50% in 3 months,
Okay,
or along that timeline
Okay.
to see progression. That's what I'd be comfortable with.
So a repair plan in 30 days.
Or
I'm hearing that
immediately.
correct?
Yeah, whatever the
And then
recommendation.
50% completion within 3 months or within 6 months to remove the
3
placard?
months.
3 months. Okay. Are you clear on what you're voting on then? Okay, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
No.
Okay, motion carries, so you'll have opportunity to work with Zach, and he'll get together with you and go through the planning process with you. Is there anything else, Zach, for the Board of Health tonight?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, then I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Okay, and that's 5:54. Okay, now we'll go into the regular council meeting. So we'll need to take the roll again for the council.
Councilmember Rowe?
Here.
Councilmember Stevens?
Here.
Councilmember Myers?
Here.
Councilmember Berg?
Here.
Councilmember Dalby?
Here.
Mayor Lazio?
Here.
Items on the consent agenda. Minutes from regular meeting number 12 on April 20th, 2021 as presented. Canvasser and solicitor's application for American Legion Auxiliary to collect donations for Poppy Week for veterans on 5/24 to 5/31/2021 at various businesses within the city. Authorizing the mayor to sign the FAA grant application for the Rehabilitate Runway 422 project at the Ottumwa Regional Airport. Resolution number 89, 2021, setting May 18th, 2021 as the date of a public hearing on the fiscal year 21 amendment to the current city budget. Beer and/or liquor applications for Norte Star LLC at 219 Fox Sock Road, Red's Pub LLC temporary outdoor service area on May 15th, June 19th, and July 10th, 2021 at 618 Church Street. All applications pending final inspections.
Okay, is there a motion?
Move the consent agenda as presented, Your Honor.
Second.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Item C in our agenda will need approval for tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Before I turn it over to our city administrator, Phil Rath, I'd like to take a personal point of privilege and recognize our city clerk, Christine Reinhardt, who this week received her certification from the state of Iowa for being a certified municipal clerk, and it's very timely. That came yesterday. This week is also the week of National Municipal Certified Clerks, and I think the timing couldn't have worked out better. So we're very proud of you, Christine, and want to say thank you for your hard work. For the general public, she had to take 100 hours of classes and a 2-year training program to get through this certification. So we're very proud of her, and she's done a great job. Okay, Phil, you have the floor.
All right, very good. Thank you. So there have been assessments going out to people in the community over the last month or so here, and it's been cause for a lot of question, a lot of commentary, and I just wanted to take an opportunity real quick to go over a few points, kind of help identify the process, the purpose, and how that relates city, county, and everything to that regard. So first of all, just the purpose of these assessments. It's a process. It's prescribed in Iowa code, and it's regulated by the state. It is independent of the city, and it's independent of any of our local revenue needs. So we don't see the assessed values increase because the city needs more money. Those are completely divorced from each other. The work is completed by the county assessor. So that's where I said it's not a function of the city itself. The county assessor is charged to do that. Communities in Iowa that are 10,000 or larger could have a local assessor. There are very few in the state that do that. Most of the municipalities, it is a county assessor in each of the 99 counties that does that work. And the ultimate goal of the assessor and of the assessments is to establish the equitable fair market value of properties. And for those that market value, that's essentially what a willing buyer is going to pay a willing seller. So that's the price that they would agree upon. An arm's length transaction, you might hear otherwise, another way of putting that. So the assessor's role is to really try to determine what that value is on any of the real property in the city. There are a few different classes of property: residential, commercial, industrial, multi-residential, agricultural, and then utilities and railroad. And utilities and railroad are done by the state. That's at the state level. The other 5 are done by the assessor. And as I said, it's a regulated process. There are certain criteria that they do need to meet in determining that. So an assessor will take a look at property. They're estimating the assessed value of each of those property groups. The first 4 that I mentioned, they will use at least one of the following approaches, and they can use any combination or all 3 to determine the value. Market approach, that examines recent sales for comparable properties. Cost approach, that's an estimate of the cost of labor and materials if the property were to be replaced. And an income approach, estimates the property's ability to produce income and capitalize into an estimated value. So a lot of times you see that with commercial is using one of those others, the cost or income, because there aren't always a lot of sales of the commercial properties. The agriculture uses a method based upon productivity and earning capacity. So that one is set out a little different there. Property tax assessments, it's only one factor used in determining the individual property tax bills. As I mentioned, it's an estimation of the fair market value, and that looks at land, buildings, structures, or any other improvements on the property. The process takes about up to 18 months from start to finish, and all real property is assessed every 2 years in odd-numbered years. So I think we heard at the last meeting or the last week about the they just received an assessment 2 years ago. Well, that is part of the process. Every 2 years, this does get accomplished. And part of that is making sure that there's an equalized valuation across the board. So every 2 years, you will most likely see at least some kind of movement on assessments. And I think if you look at the market, if you hear buyer's market or seller's market, that is going to have an impact on the pricing or the valuations of homes. If you don't have a lot of supply and people are willing to pay more for the homes, that's going to increase the values of all homes throughout. So there's those impacts there, and that's one of the jobs of the assessor to determine that. And finally, I just want to close on this, talking back again about how we don't see the assessments go up just for taxes. Levy is the amount of dollars needed for the budget of the organization. So when we look at, we need $10 million for the budget, that's the amount of dollars we need. That doesn't change regardless of what the assessed value is. What the assessed value does is help determine what that rate is going to be. So if you have, we need $10 million and the total assessed value across the whole city is $1 million, you divide that out and you get a tax rate of $10. So $10 per thousand you might hear. Then you look at each of the individual properties, and if your property is, worth 1,000 times the 10, you're going to pay the $100 in your taxes. I'm using fictitious numbers here, of course, but they're just for the reference. The total assessed value, if all the values are going up, you may not see an increase in your taxes. And this is a very simplified. There's a number of other things that go back into this when you have rollbacks and the equalizations and other things that the state and the auditor does before you get your actual tax bill. So just wanted to say the simple nature of the assessed values going up is routine, and it does not mean that it's going to affect your overall taxes. So hopefully that helps clarify things a little bit.
Okay. Any comments or any questions from council?
I was gonna say, Phil, I think that would be a great summary to put on Facebook to explain how it works, because I think it's confusing to a lot of people. I know Kayla and I talked about we need some infographics to show what next year will look like with the levy reductions and what that means. I think would help clarify to a lot of people.
Good point, Holly. Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to address any item on the agenda? Okay, move on to F then, please.
Bid report and contract award for demolition and disposal of 2433 East Main Street, Ottumwa, Iowa. Recommendation: accept bid and award contract to Dustin Smith for the best bid sum of $4,200.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Good evening again, Zach. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. You're going to see a lot of me for a few of these. The next 5 items are all demolition or asbestos abatement bids. And at the top, I just want to say that we were really thrilled with the bids we got here. Each item had multiple competitive bids. We have different contractors winning different projects, so we don't have to have one contractor doing all of them where we wait for them to be available. All in all, everything worked out really well on these, and we thought they were good bids. This one is the demolition of 2433 East Main. Bids for the project were accepted until 2 p.m. on April 27th, 2021. 5 bids were received, and Dustin Smith had the best bid in the amount of $4,200. The staff recommends awarding him the contract.
Okay. Any questions for Zach? Take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Bid report and contract award for demolition and disposal of 815 Allison, Ottumwa, Iowa. Recommendation: accept bid and award contract for demolition and disposal of 815 Allison to Dan Larson for the best bid sum of $4,400.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Go ahead, Zach.
Thank you, Mayor. Bids for this project were also received until 2 p.m. on April 27th. 5 bids were also received for this project, and Dan Larson submitted the best bid in the amount of $4,400, and staff recommends awarding him the contract.
Any questions for Zach? Take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Bid report and contract award for the demolition and disposal of 1214 West Highland, Ottumwa, Iowa. Recommendation: accept bid and award contract for demolition and disposal of 1214 West Highland to Tim Skinner Trucking for the best bid sum of $5,335.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation is presented, Your Honor.
Second.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, bids were received until 2 p.m. on April 27. 5 bids were again received, and Tim Skinner submitted the best bid for this project in the amount of $5,335, and staff recommends awarding him the contract.
Any questions? Take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Bid report and contract award for asbestos removal at 508 North Court Street, Ottumwa, Iowa. Recommendation: accept bid and award contract for asbestos removal at 508 North Court Street to Dustin Smith for the best bid sum of $1,040.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Go ahead.
All right, thank you, Mayor. This is an asbestos abatement removal contract. Bids were again accepted until 2 p.m. on April 27th. There were 3 bids for asbestos removal, and Dustin Smith submitted the best bid in the amount of $1,040. So staff recommends awarding him the contract.
Any questions? Take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Bid report and contract award for demolition and disposal of 508 North Court Street, Ottumwa, Iowa. Recommendation: accept bid and award contract for demolition and disposal of 508 North Court Street to Tim Skinner Trucking LLC for the best bid sum of $13,952.
Is there a motion?
Move
So
the
moved.
recommendation as presented. Sorry.
Second.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a demolition bid project for 508 North Court Street. I'll just make a note on this one. This building is a contributing structure to the North Court Historic District, and we did notify the Historic Preservation Commission that the demolition was going to happen after the condemnation. Actually, I think before the condemnation, we notified them of that. It is unfortunate to lose one of the contributing structures, but this home is in pretty bad shape. And this should be the last time we see it. 4 bids were received for the demolition of this project, and Tim Skinner Trucking LLC submitted the best bid for the amount of $13,952, and so the staff recommends awarding him the contract.
Any questions? Take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Resuming rental inspections after COVID-19 suspension. Recommendation: resume regular inspections with appropriate measures to protect staff and public safety.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Go ahead, Zach.
Thank you, Mayor. In February, the council suspended rental inspections at the request of some local landlords and others for 90 days in response to the COVID-19 public health emergency. By my count, that suspension ends on or around May 17th, and the staff's recommendation is to resume those inspections on May 17th. We probably start scheduling them about now, 2 weeks out. And then we would still maintain a policy where our staff uses their PPE when they do the inspections. And we also include in the inspection notice that they should call the office if anybody that lives in the building is having COVID symptoms, and we'll reschedule that inspection. Or if they're following the physician's recommendation to quarantine, we'll reschedule that inspection.
Any questions for Zach? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Discussion of possible e-scooter program, city expectations, and required ordinance improvements. Recommendation: proceed with developing a proposed memorandum of understanding between the city and Bird, and proceed with developing proposed updates to ordinances for a safe e-scooter program.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. The city's been in contact with Bird, which is an app-based e-scooter rental platform. They provide e-scooters for rental and use on public streets, and the e-scooters are parked in the public right-of-way in a similar manner to bicycles. Bird's interested in doing business in Ottumwa beginning this spring and summer. I've included here a presentation from Bird. I'm not going to go through it line by line the way that they gave to us, but I do want to just point out a few things in the material that they provided to us. So Bird provides e-scooters. The idea is that they're convenient. They solve the last mile issue for people who might be connecting to public transit, and that they can reduce congestion, improve air quality, those sorts of things. And basically, you rent by getting on the app. When you find the scooter, it has instructions to get the app, or if you are a regular user, the app can tell you when scooters are nearby and just push a button and you've rented that one. It does require a safety tutorial before somebody can ride. Just costs $1 to start, and then there's a per-minute fee after that. This is an example of what the scooters look like. They do have a kickstand, so the expectation is that when they're parked, they're always parked in the upright position to minimize the amount of space they take in the right-of-way. Again, some of their proposal, what they believe it would provide as benefits. The model that they use has a local operator. They partner with an individual or a company or a nonprofit here in the area that does the service and shares in the profit. So this person will be responsible for taking calls when scooters aren't parked where they're supposed to be, for doing the charging, for taking them at the end of the season, for doing service, that sort of thing. The scooters are designed so that the entrepreneur that runs this side of the operation is able to do basic maintenance and repair to them from home or from whatever workshop they use. And then they did note here that the average take-home earning for that local business is $70,000 a year. They do have a customer service platform, and as we've been negotiating a draft of the memorandum of understanding, what we're looking at is a concept where they're available, or they're required to be available to resolve an issue where a scooter's parked in the wrong place or something like that within 2 hours during business hours and within 10 hours during outside of business hours. We're going to be continuing to refine that draft before it gets to you, but that's what we're looking at as far as the expectation for customer support, especially on the city's side. They do offer some pricing that provides community access for low-income riders and for veterans, seniors, and other folks. And then they do have some things built into the app that make sure they direct folks where to park, and they provide incentives to people who park correctly. Part of developing a proposal will be identifying how we want folks to park and where we want them to park, and making sure that we have some clear expectations about what happens when that doesn't get followed. That's the information that they provided to us. Staff has been working with our attorneys at Allers and Cooney to develop a memorandum of understanding, which includes permitted types of use, legal indemnification, those sorts of things for the city. We also believe that we need to make some improvements to the bicycle ordinance before we could proceed as well. We're also going to look at whether there's any other areas of code that we need to make improvements in before we proceed. But the first step, I suppose, would be getting from the council a green light to continue to pursue this. We don't want to direct the attorneys to write up a whole ordinance change and then find out it's not where we want to go. So I guess that's where we are, is asking the council tonight for that first green light to start putting together the changes and the documents we need to protect our interests and have a safe program.
Are there questions or comments you want to make, council?
Just a quick question, and normally I wouldn't ask this question for a private venture coming to the community, but since we have to do a little bit of front-end legwork on our part as a city, have they done any sort of study to make sure that this is even a viable business model for the city of Ottumwa?
So they are operating starting this season in Fort Dodge, and they've been expanding into the similar sized communities in Iowa and other areas. They believe that there's a market for it, especially for recreation riding, but they also think that there's folks that will use it for convenience, shopping, things like that.
Yeah, they had selected Ottumwa as one of the sites they were looking at getting into for the market. So I'm assuming they've done some amount of research to approach us on this venture.
Okay, thank you.
So along with Mark's question though, I guess I think when you started, Zach, you mentioned one of their main emphasis was transportation and being that mode of between, and it's kind of like, so between bus stop, red to blue to green. So I just don't see it being a real need for making the transportation connections in Ottumwa. And then some of the other things, 2 weeks ago, we had such a good presentation on nuisances and we got into inspections and enforcement and everything else. So one of my questions reading through this material is an enforcement side of it. They have somebody or a nonprofit that is going to check some of the things. But as a matter of fact, are we going to allow them on streets? Are we going to allow them on sidewalks? Are we going to allow them on trails? What about speed factor? And just several other things. But I guess my biggest one goes back to enforcement, that with Main Street, with all the cleanup, with all the good things we're doing, I think the last thing we need is something where, okay, I'm through with it, so I'm just gonna, you said they have a kickstand, sometimes that would be used, probably sometimes not. But it appears to me like it could require quite a bit of monitoring. And again, from 2 weeks ago, that seemed to be one of our city problems is, do we have the staff to enforce a lot of the things we have in place? So I see a lot of questions.
I agree with you. I think that it's, they've been in business for a while. They say they were the first to do this. And we're working to make the best agreement we can with them so that the expectations are there. I would imagine that they don't want riders who are going to misuse them and dump them where they're not supposed to be either. So I imagine they'll take controls and take into account, you misused this last time, maybe we don't want you as a customer again, those sorts of things as well. But I do agree with you. The idea is they'd be used on streets the way bicycles are supposed to be used. They'd be parked the way bicycles are supposed to be used, and they'd be policed more or less the same way we police bicycles. As far as use on the trails, I would think that they probably fit in. We are able to regulate the speed that can be used in certain places, and with a certain throttle, the top end for the speed, I could see them being used on trails without being too disruptive. But we'd want to make sure that we work with everybody who had an interest in that to develop what they call the geofencing, which is just a fancy word for the computer-assisted map for where you can ride it and where it tells you, hey, turn around, you outside the area.
Yeah, I was going to expound on that. I watched the video where it shows it knows where you're supposed to go and where you can't go. So we can geofence it to where, say, it doesn't go to a highway or different things like that. And I believe you even get fined through your app. You get charged more if you abandon them or leave them somewhere than the user has used their credit card. So if they leave it abandoned, they're getting charged for every minute they're using it. So I know, like Zach said, Fort Dodge is just getting started. So personally, I think it's worth investigating and give some time to see how it's working in our sister cities that have already started the process. You know, that gives us a month or two to see how it's working there before we're saying yes. Is my 2 cents. Because, yeah, I think there are a lot of concerns, but I think it's worth investigating deeper, but yet gives us some time to see how it's working in other similar communities in the state.
I think that's a good idea, Holly. And I agree with most of the stuff that Bob said here. My understanding is it's $1 a minute.
Yeah, that was what they had proposed, was $1 a minute, which seems a little
Or-
pricey for something I'm.
I can't see Tumwin's.
It looked like it was $1 to start and then so much per minute. If it's 4 cents a minute or whatever the amount is, I don't know. But it's, I can't remember when I talked to the guy. It's less than $1 a minute, but it is a per minute charge after that.
That makes a little more sense.
Yeah.
I also thought it was $1 a minute, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it is, I think it's $1 every ride regardless. And then, how much per minute, how many minutes you use it. And just to be clear here, so they, the company had approached city staff, and so we did some initial due diligence, looked at the memorandum of understanding, talked with the attorneys, and did a little back and forth, and they were willing to work with us on some of these aspects with the agreement. But then we kind of hit that checkpoint. Is this the part where we invest the staff, invest time in adopting new ordinances, in taking all the due diligence for those next steps, if it was not going to be a right fit for the community, it was going to be a non-starter coming before you as elected officials. And so at that point, it suggested to Zach is, well, why don't we bring it before council, at least see if there's that general level of interest to keep going and keep looking at this as an opportunity for the city. If not, if it's an absolute no, dead on arrival, well, then we know and we drop it. And, this isn't a passion project of ours, so to speak, but it is one of those quality of life issues that may be a benefit to some people in the community. So we're just kind of at that checkpoint.
Zach, I can see social media light up tomorrow. The city spending tax dollars on scooters.
Right.
I can just see it now.
Yeah.
My 2 cents would be simply, it's a private business. It's worth investigating. I think it all comes down to how that ordinance is written. And it sounds like they've got a lot of parameters and protections in place to keep some of the obvious things that people are concerned about from happening. But again, we don't want to stand in the way of that. If it's legitimate, yet if there's a need or is there not a need, I think that'll all be done that exploratory time between now and the time we look into it. So yeah, I have no issue with it. I have concerns, like Councilman Myers said. I think he has a lot of legitimate issues and concerns about it, but I'm not going to stand in the way of it. I think it's something to try and, let the business do what they do best.
Absolutely. And yes, just to underline kind of what you said, we don't want to spend any of the city's money on this. Some of our time, I suppose, making sure that we do it safely and correctly, as we would do with anybody's safety being considered. But
So if I may, one more thing, because Holly, that's one of the good things I like about sometimes is having these kinds of discussions, but I still, my take on it, Administrator Rack, you mentioned dead on arrival. I'm almost ready to say this issue, I'm dead on arrival. Although I liked Holly's points and others, let's let Fort Dodge run with it and see how things work before we invest a lot of staff time on this. Again, I'll go back to 2 weeks ago and how we are well aware that we are running staff ragged with a lot of the things we can and can't do. So maybe let Fort Dodge report back to us.
I haven't gotten anything as far as a deadline, but they have Mike Butler's his name, the guy at Bird that I work with. He's given me the indication that if we're not able to go within a month or so, that's fine, but they probably will have to look somewhere else and maybe come back to us for a different season. But they want to be able to get the spring and the summer, or else it's not going to really be profitable for them to come here when they can't operate in the winter and the fall. So.
Any other questions or comments? There's a motion on the floor to let Zach proceed. And if you're comfortable, you can vote yea or nay. So let's take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens,
No.
Councilmember Myers,
No.
Councilmember Berg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-2.
And before we move on, just want to clarify that the city is not spending money on the scooters. We don't purchase them. So just to get that out there. So in the public, we're not buying scooters.
That's why I brought it up.
Okay.
Bid report to reject bid received on water pollution control facility operations re-roofing project. Recommendation, reject bid received on water pollution control facility operations re-roofing project.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Go ahead, Larry.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. 3 sets of plans were either sent out or downloaded from the city website, and 1 bid was received. The bid was significantly higher than the engineer's opinion of cost, which was $100,000. Staff is recommending that we reject the bid. The bid received was $134,576. That equates to about $33.64 per square foot. This was kind of the top of the line roof system. It still had approximately a 20-year life guarantee. One of the things that we run into on this particular project, we have to be careful of the methane gas that's produced within this particular area. So you cannot have an open flame type roof system, or the original tar and pea gravel system would work. Finding somebody to do that is another story. So we're going to go back to the drawing board and see if we can come up with another roof system that can be installed without an open flame system. We know some of the Duralast uses a hot air gun. They are capable of creating temperatures in the 1500 degree range. So we've got to come up and work with some different roofing contractors to figure out, is there a better solution than $33 a square foot?
Any other questions for Larry?
Larry, do you think, I know all building materials are just skyrocketing right now. Do you anticipate in general that maybe there's hope in the near future that prices might start going down again on some of those materials, which may affect it?
I don't even know how to predict something like that. You know, I've seen stuff go up. I haven't really, on an average, seen it go down much.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, it's just so significant. When you look at a building cost, for instance, and I do realize and acknowledge that we've had different conversations just on a residential home, for instance. You know, there was a recent article in the last week that estimated that if you build a house today, you're going to spend $33,000 to $36,000. So just to give you an indicator of construction cost prices, we are anticipating double-digit increases, and I imagine they'll stay there.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens,
Yes.
Councilmember Myers,
Yes.
Councilmember Berg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby.
Yes.
Bid report to reject bid received on 2021 RFP number 5 sewer easement cleaning. Recommendation, reject bid received on 2021 RFP number 5 sewer easement cleaning.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Go ahead, Larry.
Again, very similar to the last one. We had 4 sets of plans that was either sent out or downloaded from the city website, and 1 bid was received. The bid was, again, significantly higher than the engineer's opinion, which was $20,000. I will say this is a kind of a leap into an area we hadn't bid. These are for cross-country sewers. The terrain varies from rolling to fairly rough. It did come in about 49% over what we estimated. And this is something that we have been doing with our own crews during the winter when time allows. Probably about 4 years ago, we started this program. I think some of you probably seen and traveled through some of these cross-country sewer areas. We want to look at, is it possible to just rent the equipment? We have identified some specific equipment that would be used that we don't have in our inventory, and it wouldn't make sense to own, but possibly rent. And again, one of the things that we received from 2 of the contractors that could possibly do this is just kind of the wrong time of year to let this. So we recommend rejecting it, bidding it later in the year. And again, at this time of year, a lot of the contractors' plates are full or filling up quickly.
Any questions for Larry? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens,
Yes.
Councilmember Myers,
Yes.
Councilmember Berg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby.
Yes.
Informational update, Water Pollution Control Facility Treatment Plant Update. Recommendation, Department Report on Water Pollution Control Facilities Treatment Plant Update.
So go ahead, Larry, this is a report.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to invite the engineer up, also plant manager, to kind of review this. I'm going to frame it and I'm going to let him fill in the details. As this council is aware, we switched the type of operation back to the design, which is BOD removal and not nitrification. That was kind of a hybrid system that under the way it was being operated, we didn't really have the full process. We weren't actually having a zone that was below 0.5%. Anyway, I want to show you, we've had some couple updates on utility performance since the switch. And I want to remind council, there's several major factors that should come out in this presentation. And then I'm just going to add stuff to Phil's presentation.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. This is an update on the performance of our BOD only mode. There we go. This is a little overview of the plant for those guys who are not intimately familiar with it. All the influent comes in the headworks from all over the city. And from there, it goes to the primary clarifiers, and that's where any heavy material like sand, silt, dirt from the streets that gets in there will settle out in there. And also fats, oils, and greases will float to the top. And that gets rid of a significant percentage of our BOD and a lot of the suspended solids. From there, it flows to our aeration basins. The vertical loop reactors, what the VLR stands for. And that's where the bugs, the bacteria actually eat the stuff that's left in there. And after they get done eating that, it flows into the final clarifiers. And in there, the bacteria settles out to the bottom, and the different protozoans and bugs will settle out to the bottom, and clear water will flow out the top. And from there, it goes to a UV basin, and that UV basin disinfects the water, and it goes back to the river, clean. The other parts of the plant are the anaerobic digesters. So anything heavy that settles out in the primary clarifiers or the fat that floats goes to these anaerobic digesters, which digest the solids, and we eventually will haul that to farm fields. And there's also these SC tanks. So when the bugs eat and they'll reproduce and create more bugs, in order to not overwhelm the system, you have to waste some of them. And so they'll go in these SC tanks. And again, they're digested there as well and eventually spread onto farm fields. These are a couple other buildings here. There's a UV basin between the two clarifiers. Just an overview of the plant. So this table has our current loadings. It has our permit rated capacity with our DNR permit, and also has the bottom two lines, which are what the plant engineers told us that if we run in these certain modes with a 12-day solids retention time versus 2.5-day solids retention time, what are the physical limits of the infrastructure we have at our plant? And those are our theoretical limits right now. But the main thing I want you to take out from this is that our current loading, our peak month, since Dr. Pepper put pre-treatment in, is 5832 pounds per day. And our permit rated capacity is 11,613. So as of right now, we'd have 5,781 pounds of BOD to allocate to any industry or business that wants to come to town. Just a little review of our water quality. So when we changed processes, we went from a long retention time down to a shorter retention time, and we have had virtually no impact on our nutrient removal. Phosphorus is within a few percent, as is nitrogen. This is the same. We did a nutrient reduction study last year, submitted to the DNR, and have yet to hear back from them on it. So that might be coming up sometime this summer or later. And this is the graphical representation of the water quality going out of the plant. The red lines on top are the limits on how much we're allowed of the limits of the concentration of our effluent. So we're allowed so many milligrams per liter of BOD, which is biological oxygen demand. It's just a measure of how much of the stuff the bugs didn't eat from the sewage. And suspended solids are self-explanatory, just solids that are suspended in there. So we're well below the DNR limits on those. And then there's a secondary requirement to remove 85% of whatever BOD or solids come into the plant. And we're well above that. The BOD is harder for us to meet sometimes on percent removal because it's so diluted. When you get wet months, it dilutes your influent. And so it makes it harder to treat. But even with that limitation, we still have never not met the 85%. Some update on operating costs here. So part of having younger bugs in there and having them circulate through their fasters, you have more sludge you have to waste off to keep them young. And that does increase our sludge production some, 15%. And this causes us to have to pump that WS, stand for waste activated sludge. So we waste 20 million more gallons a year than we did under the old process. But the concentration of that sludge so far has been thicker than what it was before. So we only have increased our hauling amounts by 2%, which is pretty low. And it probably costs about $3,000 a year at our current rates to haul that extra sludge. Now our electric use, we've shut down 2 of our 4 VLR basins. We only have 2 out of 8 rotors running right now, and we've turned our air down. And that's resulted in a lot of electrical savings, around $51,000 a year. Another way we've saved on electricity is to reduce our RAS pumping. So that's when the bugs settle out in the finals, you have to pump those bugs back into the reactor so they can eat more. And since there's fewer bugs in our system now, we don't have to pump as much back. So that's reduced our RAS pumping by 33%, which is like almost 700 million gallons a year. You're not pumping backwards, which saves you money on pumping costs. And there's also some reduced wear and tear on our pumps. I haven't quantified that yet. It's hard to tell. I mean, maintenance on those things is so intermittent, it's hard to average it out over a short period of time. So, but it's there. I just don't know what the number is. These are just some graphs. The orange line is I tell you, the horizontal axis is the flow to the plant, and the vertical axis is the amount of electricity we use. And the orange line on top is where we were before, and the green line's where we're at now. And if you go to an average day of like 5 million gallons a day, we went from just over 10,000 kilowatt hours per day down to just over 8,000. That's where the 20% savings comes in. And this is the same graph, but the horizontal axis is BOD coming to the plant. So that the less BOD you have to treat, the less you have to oxygenate it. You save money there too, but the relationship's the same. It's right around 10,000 pounds or 10,000 kilowatt hours at 2,500 pounds. And then we drop down to around 8,000. So again, that's your 20% savings, 19%. There's something else that's coming up at the plant. We did an aeration study. We had an incident last fall where the BOD coming to the plant went from 3,000 pounds on a day, on a Tuesday, up to over 10,000 pounds on a Friday, then back down to 2,000 the next Monday. And that causes a lot of operational problems. On the way up, the oxygen is too low. And as the BOD drops out, the oxygen is too high. And having to do that manually, it's almost impossible to react that fast to something. So we wanted to look and see how could we use our existing equipment and controls and provide options to better control the oxygen. And we got a report back from the engineers, and we're looking into it right now, trying to figure out what will give us the best return on our investment. But even if it doesn't pay for itself over the long run and cost savings by reducing our air consumption, it'll improve our BOD and nutrient removals just by being able to more tightly control that. There it goes. So anyway, the key takeaways I want you to get off from this is that we're saving about $48,000 a year with these operational changes, mostly in electricity savings. That we have just under 5,800 pounds of BOD available right now to allocate to new industry, and that if needed, the currently implemented operational changes could increase available capacity to 18,000 pounds of BOD. But that the re-rating would be necessary to do that, and we don't plan on pursuing it now unless a customer requests us to, because there's regulatory requirements and there's that we don't want to do right now. You want to add anything, Larry?
Oh, that's pretty good.
Okay. Well, thank you. Do you have any questions?
The study, this resulted, we had Brian did some of the work for you a couple of years back.
Yes.
Phil touched on it. One of the things we want to look at is automated controls on oxygen content control. Because our operators go in and they only sample it a few times a day. If you had automatic controls on it, then the PLC is going to recognize that your oxygen's dropping on a surge day. It'll start pumping or boosting your air, so you don't have that lag time. And that's the difference between this operation and the other type of operation. It was so heavy with the bug and the biological part, it would absorb the slugs easier, but it didn't really save us the money. It did make it easier to operate, but that's really not how it was designed. We weren't operating it to the full extent of that process. It was kind of, again, a hybrid process. So we weren't gaining the benefit that was intended. The other thing that we were looking at is in the study was options on the air. Each of those improvements also have energy savings tied to it, but we're looking at the payback period to see if it makes sense. And again, we weigh more than just does it have, a 7-year or less payback for the equipment. So there'll be several things. We have put money in the Performa and in our long-range planning to cover these costs.
Any questions, council, or any comments?
Thank you. I love going out for tours of the water pollution control. As a geologist and environmental science background, I get pretty nerdy about it. I was wondering if there's, do we know when there's a change like that huge influence that we had, is that due to just stormwater runoff, or is there a cause that we know of what does those big spikes?
It can be a combination of things. If you have low flow for some period of time, we've got several different systems that store material in the box. One thing that can occur is kind of a slug comes in with the first heavy rain. The other thing is some of the plants that have discharges sometimes spike in what they discharge to us.
And with the new available, the BOD that's available under change back to the process, have we ensured that our economic development partners know what that new capacity is to be able to market to potential businesses?
I think that's something that we probably ought to do better. I mean, we've kind of had an understanding internally that this was here. I'm not sure we shared that with them. I think there was some information passed out with some past staff members that was not accurate. And I think that might still be within that organization.
Because I think we want to make knowing what we have and that we have that much available.
And it would still matter the type, not only
Yeah.
load, but the type of load. Because
Yeah.
there's certain things that we're not set to treat. I always use the extreme example of chromium or something. Heavy metal type waste streams, something that we probably wouldn't want to entertain because of the amount of money it would cost us to gear up to actually be able to do that. It's really another process, another train in the plant.
Yeah, no, definitely. But I think
we've got some really good staff. We've been very fortunate to pick up some very knowledgeable people and brought them into the staff, which was really helped.
excellent. Yeah, I just know when those things come up, they always come up quick when those questions come to economic development. So I want to make sure we can get them all the most up-to-date info we can.
To expand that a little bit, one of the larger slugs was just there was a bypass around a pre-treatment unit for either, I'm not sure if we know if it was maintenance or just an upset on their end.
Thank you.
Very good report, though. Thank you very much. Thanks,
And if
Phil.
anybody wants it, Phil has a lot of depth behind it. We actually kind of shortened it way up. I mean, a lot of data behind what he presented. There's a lot more. It's kind of the iceberg theory.
Yeah, if you want to sit in my office, I could show you stuff for hours.
Well, we appreciate the update, and I think it does show that reviewing and studying and making some changes can save the city some money. So we appreciate your efforts in that regard.
So, I mean, and of course, that's an annual savings. So if we're saving somewhere around 50 grand, we're already 150 in. And again, you know, I've said this multiple times, kind of kicking the dead horse, but one of the things by operating in this mode, you've been able to slow all your pumps and everything. And I like the analogy, and I've said this multiple times, that a previous engineering firm used. You know, it's like driving your car 80 versus 55. You know, you're just going to get a lot more miles out of a car when you run it at 55.
Very good. Anything else, Council? Okay, thank you, Larry. Thank you, Phil, and Ron back there, I see.
Resolution number 87, 2021, awarding the contract for the Rehabilitate Runway 422 project at the Ottumwa Regional Airport to Struck and Irwin Paving Incorporated of DeForest, Wisconsin, in the amount of $319,084.37. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 87, 2021.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendations presented.
Second.
Good evening, Chris. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The Rehabilitate Runway 422 project consists of asphalt repairs, crack filling, slurry coat, and runway identification markings. 4 bids were received ranging from $319,084.37 to $389,219. Bids were checked and reviewed by our consulting engineer, Kirkham Michael. Struck and Irwin Paving Incorporated is the low bidder at $319,084.37. This project is contingent upon grant approval from the FAA. Reimbursement to the city will be 100% of the final project cost, with $0 coming from the airport fund, fund balance.
Any questions for Chris? Unusual, got 100%.
100%.
Hearing no questions, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Resolution number 88, 2021, authorizing the mayor to sign the Airport Capital Improvement Program data sheets and related documents, and authorize staff to submit the data sheets and related documents to the Iowa DOT for the fiscal years 2022 to 2026. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 88, 2021.
Is there a motion?
Recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Skip. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. The city submits an annual airport improvement plan to the Iowa DOT. The plan serves as a pre-application for the Iowa DOT grants program. The updated projects plan includes apron improvements for 2022, taxiway A LED lighting for 2023, taxiway B LED lighting for 2024, construction box hangar for 2025, terminal area overlay for 2026. The following is included in the plan: data sheets with project description, amount of requested IDOT dollars, which is 85%. Local match required is 15% of the project. This has been approved by the Airport Advisory Board.
Any questions for Chris? Our local share will be about 39,000 out of the total project.
On which project is that?
On the runway improvements plan here that I see that we have the total cost of 265. Page 4 of your packet.
I don't have my packet with me. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
That's what you gave us. I just wanted to confirm that it's in the
Yeah.
record that it'll be the 85-15%
Yes,
breakout.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Any questions for Chris? Take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Resolution number 91, 2021, fixing an amount for abating a nuisance against certain lots in the city of Ottumwa, Iowa, totaling $2,878.84. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 91, 2021.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Good evening again, Zach.
All right, thank you, Mayor. The city abated nuisances on 5 properties that are listed in the resolution. The property owners were billed for those nuisance abatements, but the invoices in the properties remain unpaid. So this would be a nuisance abatement and a total cost of $2,878.84.
Any questions for Zach? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Resolution number 92, 2021, purchase used equipment from Archangel for fixed base operator at Ottumwa Regional Airport. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 92, 2021.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And Phil, I think they're taking this.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor. Earlier this year, City Council approved staff recommendation to absorb the fixed base operator services at Ottumwa Regional Airport. As part of that, at the time was a request to lease the equipment that was necessary from Archangel until a purchase agreement could be reached. We have an agreement here before you to acquire the necessary equipment. Staff has evaluated that, has looked over and helped to establish a price. And so we're looking at the purchase of the attached equipment for $140,000 minus the $3,000 that was part of the lease payments previously. So we'll be cutting a check in the amount of $137,000. And as far as where these funds are coming from, what we're looking at right now is advancing from the capital fund, but having the airport fund refund the capital fund back over the next couple of years as that can be budgeted for over that time period.
Any questions for Phil, or Chris is here too? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Resolution number 93, 2021, award the contract for the 2021 sidewalk drop and detectable warning installation program to Pillar Incorporated of Huxley, Iowa, in the amount of $136,320.50. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 93, 2021.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Skip. Go ahead, Larry.
This is the 10th contract and consists of installation of sidewalk drops and detectable warnings at various locations throughout the city of Ottumwa. The completion of these sidewalk drops and detectable warnings will be a step toward the compliance of our ADA compliance transition plan. The transition plan was approved by council on August 7th, 2012. The city-owned and maintained intersections are one portion of the ADA requirements. The overall project was estimated at $1,280,000 and is budgeted at $120,000 each year until completed. The plans for this project were posted on the city's webpage, submitted to Master Builders of Iowa, and published in their construction update plan service, and was available for pickup in the engineering office. An announcement is published in the Ottumwa Courier notifying of the public of the projects. Bids received and opened by the city of Ottumwa on April 28, 2021 at 2 p.m. 4 bids were received. The low bidder is Pillar Inc. of Huxley, Iowa, in the amount of $136,320.50. The bid tab and plan holders list, they are attached. And then we've listed for your convenience all of the contracts starting in 2012 to date. With this contract, we will be at $1,099,016.28.
Any questions for Larry? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Resolution number 94, 2021, award the contract for the 2021 Sanitary Utility Access Program to DC Concrete and Construction of Dowds, Iowa, in the amount of $49,800. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 94, 2021.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Go ahead, Larry.
This is one of our annual programs. This project will replace sanitary utility access and existing sanitary sewer lines and associated patchwork. Manholes are typically placed at locations that have either limited access points or problem areas prone to plugging, causing increased cleaning and maintenance. Bids were received and opened by the City of Ottumwa on April 28th, 2021 at 2 p.m. 3 bids were received. The low bidder is DC Concrete and Construction of Dowds, Iowa, in the amount of $49,800. Again, the bid tab and plan holders list is attached. Every year, we budget $50,000 for this project.
Any questions for Larry? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Resolution number 95, 2021, award the contract for the 2021 Catch Basin Replacement Program to DC Concrete and Construction of Dowds, Iowa, in the amount of $54,030. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 95, 2021.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Go ahead, Larry.
This again is our annual catch basin program, and we'll reconstruct and raise catch basin wells and new grates as indicated on the plans and specifications. Basins are located on various streets within the City of Ottumwa. Bids were received and opened by the City of Ottumwa on April 28th, 2021 at 2 p.m. 3 bids were received. The low bidder is DC Concrete and Construction of Dowds, Iowa, in the amount of $54,030. Again, the bid tab and plan holders list that are attached. Again, in this program, budget $50,000 annually. It will come from the sewer fund.
Any questions for Larry? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Resolution number 96, 2021, award the contract for the River Wall Extension Project to Kramer Concrete of Bloomfield, Iowa, in the amount of $56,745.54. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 96, 2021.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Go ahead, Larry.
This project will raise the north side river wall between the Hydro Dam and Wapello Street Bridge by 1 foot. The project is necessary for the river wall to meet FEMA's freeboard requirements. Work will include prepping the existing wall, installing rebar, placing concrete, and sealing the joints. The length of the wall is 1,350 linear feet. Bids were received and opened by the City of Ottumwa on April 28, 2021 at 2 p.m. 9 bids were received. The low bidder is Kramer Concrete of Bloomfield, Iowa, in the amount of $56,745.54. This is one of many small projects. We had a presentation on what we have to do within the levee system in order to meet our new freeboard requirement. These are driven after the river had been re-rated and the profile raised based on new release rates from Red Rock Dam. The funding is from a $500,000 CIP. The estimated cost for this project by itself was $65,000.
Any questions for Larry? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Resolution number 97, 2021, award the contract for the 2021 RFP number 7, Gray Eagle Trail Curb Installation Project to TK Concrete Incorporated of Pella, Iowa, in the amount of $23,780 and authorizing the mayor to sign the contract. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 97, 2021.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Go ahead, Larry.
This is again another project that we have to do in order to meet our freeboard requirement. If you're familiar with that area, the way the road lays, there's a slight sag. In order to meet that new freeboard, we've chose to fill the area in between the walking trail and the driving surface with concrete and add kind of a double mounted drive over curb. This was the most cost effective way to reach our freeboard requirement. And again, under those requirements, you cannot sandbag to meet freeboard unless it's just an opening for a road access or plant access or access to the dam, for instance. It will install curb and gutter on the Gray Eagle Bike Trail and 125th Avenue. The work is expected to begin shortly and be completed by July 31st of 2021. Bids were received and opened by the city of Ottumwa on the 28th of 2021 at 2 p.m. 8 sets of plans were sent to selected bidders. 6 bids were received. The low bidder is TK Concrete of Pella, Iowa, in the amount of $23,780. Again, it comes out of that same CIP pool of money, and we had estimated it at $24,000.
Any questions for Larry? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Resolution number 98, 2021, accepting the work as final and complete and approving the final pay request for the Water Pollution Control Facility Effluent Diffuser Project. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 98, 2021.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Go ahead, Larry.
I'll start this out, and again, I'm going to have Phil cover some of the details on what we've done. I know this project was before you, and it's rather unique because as we negotiated our discharge permit with the Iowa Department of Natural Resources, we had set in not only a monthly rate, but also based on 100 foot of functioning diffuser and 175. That allowed us to keep a higher limit in the permit. Originally, they wanted to start out and restrict us to the 100 feet because it had not been fully operational for some years. All 30 duct-bill diffusers were replaced. The contractor provided video of all 30 exposed and flowing. This was verified with a dye test and drone footage. The diffuser is a shared with JBS, and they have agreed to pay 1/3 of the maintenance and installation cost. This percent is based on the average flow and loading from their plant compared to the total plant flow and loading. The contractor has completed the above reference work according to the plans and specifications. Upon approval, the council will accept the project and authorize final payment release of all retainage. I'm going to have Phil kind of walk us through. This was a unique project to us. We do have some good video. I'm not sure we brought that tonight, but it's kind of a neat project.
I got still pictures. I don't have a video. Thank you again, Mayor and Council. I'm going to skip back and forth a couple times here. So on the picture on the left, you'll see this diffuser right here is what's been installed. They were originally installed in 1996, and you can see they've been flowing so much they no longer close. So you get sand and stuff built back in. There's a 30-inch manifold, and there's 36-inch diffusers coming off this 30-inch manifold pipe. So anyway, these are the old diffusers. They're a lot thinner. They're obviously wore out. And you can see the band is just like a pipe clamp. It's a big giant pipe clamp is all that's on it. The new ones, a lot more heavy duty, a lot thicker. The band we specified specifically because it's about an inch thick or inch wide, about an 1/8 inch thick. It's a solid steel band. It's suitable for pinning. So you drill a hole through there and you put a 3/8 inch tab con on there to keep it on the diffuser. We've had a history of losing these things. Every time I go out there, it seems like there's 1 or 2 missing. So this should hold them on there. And then real quick, I'll show you the before and after picture. So on the left-hand side, you can see here's port 1 right here. You can see dye coming through it. And you'll see the first 19 flowing pretty good, but then there's really nothing. There's a little bit coming out of 23, and that's because there was no diffuser on it. So it was kind of blowing up out of the sand. But a lot of it wasn't working. The green doesn't show up as well on the dye test we did a couple of weeks ago, just because it was sunny out. The river's a lot dirtier, but you can see one's flowing here. The plume's real thick through 19. Again, too, when you do these dye tests, that the plume kind of moves through the diffusers, so it's hard to get all 30 of them at once. It's the best picture I could find. But if you want to look at the video, you'll see the plume go through all 30 of these. But anyway, here's 19. You can see, kind of compare it with this, and then 19 through 30 are all flowing. There's green coming through here, but it's just harder to see because the water's dirtier. But you can actually see the disturbance in the water from number 30, where it's actually boiling up out of there. But the reason we did this, like Larry said, was that we can increase our ammonia limits with a full width active diffuser. It varies by month. Our most restrictive month is September. So our September limits went from a 22.9 30-day average to 31.9. And then our daily maximum went from 78.2 to 95.8 by doing this project. And just for comparison, the max effluent we've had in the past, I think 5 years has been 14.2. That's max day, not max average or anything. So we haven't had a single day even exceed our 30-day average. So we're not in danger of exceeding it, but it's there if we need it. So thank you.
So could I ask a question, Phil?
Yeah.
So I had the opportunity to go down, and are those duckbill things, is that rubber, a reinforced rubber, or what are they?
Yeah, they're neoprene.
Okay.
So they're rubber.
And then the ones that were wide open, the old ones?
Yeah.
So I didn't hear you, I guess. Do we replace those annually? How often?
No, these are original to the diffuser. They're 25 years old now. My guess is maybe we look at 20 years. Maybe look at replacing them a little more often now. Normally it's not an issue, but if you get a low flow going out of the diffuser and sand coming up the top of it, there's not enough velocity coming up to keep them closed. So anyway, yeah, we'll look at replacing them a little more often now. We've replaced missing ones over the years, but not done a wholesale replacement until now.
That's one of our new requirements under our discharge permitting, is to do an annual dye test and send it in. I think it was probably well justified to be added. I think the DNR realized over time, like anything out of sight, it's not maintained as it should be. One of the points Phil touched on is because those duck bills had lost their ability to close, we have a lot of sand in that line. Our crews are going to go back in and pull that back with our jets. It's almost 600 feet across. So they'll be busy trying to pull that sand out of there because it's probably 80% full. So that's part of the maintenance. And again, one of the things Phil has done is he had been the direct contact with JBS and worked the agreement with them. That's just something that probably should have been done all along and had not.
Then one more thing too, we actually got, in addition to the dye test, we have video footage. So the diver went down with a camera on his helmet, and we went through and just went from 30, 29, 28, 27, and every single one of them, he went and you could read we've numbered them all. And you could see the number, you could see it was above the sand, you could see water flowing out every one of them. So it's underwater, but we know they got it done. So.
Any other questions or comments? Good job, guys. Go ahead and.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Resolution number 99, 2021, authorizing the mayor to execute EOR Iowa proposal for wetland, T&E, and preliminary cultural resources investigations for CSO separation east of Iowa Avenue. Recommendation: pass and adopt resolution number 99, 2021.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Go ahead, Larry.
Thank you again. This agreement authorizes EOR Iowa to perform a wetland investigation, which specifically consists of jurisdictional water delineations and preparation of a summary report, prepare a habitat assessment of the state and federally protected species, and prepare an initial cultural resources overview to assist project engineers in their planning and development of the project. All tasks are intended to provide the city with compliance with requirements needed for participation in the funding via the Iowa State Revolving Fund, or better known as SRF. This area specific is an add-on to our original Phase 8. It's the area that is east of Iowa Avenue. That is one of the areas that we hope to get funded through some special appropriations. But in order to meet some of the construction deadlines that they're looking at, we're going to go ahead and start this. And it's good. Whatever they determine through this study will not change over time.
Any questions for Larry? Take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Byrd?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Resolution number 100, 2021, approved new lab and hauled waste fees for water pollution control facility. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 100, 2021.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Phil,
So
go ahead.
thank you, Mayor, thank you, Council. So as part of the services we provide at Water Pollution Control, a couple things we do is we have a lab there where we do a lot of our own tests in-house, and then some of them we outsource. But we have clients here in town and some small towns around the area that will bring tests into us to perform. And we don't advertise this at all. We don't make a point to ask people to come to us, but if they want to and they hear about it, well, we will do tests for them when we have time. And in the city code, it provides a way through a resolution to adjust our lab fees. So Jelaine, our lab director, she went through recently and calculated what our consumable costs were, what our labor costs were, what our capital equipment costs were for all the different tests we run in-house. And some of them we're losing money on. Some of them, the prices had gone down and they seemed really high. So you can see the list of the old tests and the new tests. There's like about 15 or so we perform for other people. And it's a two-tiered cost system. One price for people that are in town and one price for people who are out of town, just because the ones that pay taxes we give a break to. And a bulk of that's labor cost. But anyway, so list the cost for the inside city and the outside city are there. And like I said, we didn't look at what other labs were charging. You know, we didn't want to be competitive with them. We wanted to know what it actually costs us to do it and whether it's worth our time to do it. So these reflect what our actual costs are. Now the outside test costs, we don't perform those, but when a small town comes and drops off a sample for us, they want to test it for, let's say, E. coli. We can do that in-house, but maybe they have to, for some reason, their permit makes them have to do a test for zinc. We don't do those tests, but we have to run some tests like that ourselves for different metals. And so we'll take their samples, package them up with ours, and send them off in one box. It's just something easier for them to do. And in the past, we've had separate prices for each of those tests. Well, it hasn't kept up with the changing rates we're being charged by the outside entity. And I'd be for you every month if I tried to do that. So we thought rather than trying to tie it to a specific cost for a test, we'll just charge them. If they want us to send a test off for them, we'll charge them $2 to package that test up with our tests and send it off in the box that we send off. We would charge them extra if they wanted it the next day and we don't need ours delivered next day. They'd have to pay for the extra shipping too. But it seemed to be a little easier way to do it. And so just something we wanted to get passed on so we're not losing money on stuff and not charging people an arm and a leg for something either. Now the second part, you guys want to do this all together? Let's do it all together. So we also charge for hauled waste, the plan. And again, we looked at these costs and figured out what does it actually cost us to process this and treat this waste. And, you know, it doesn't make sense to bring it in. So anyway, we charge a $25 per load fee. You can bring a semi in, you can bring a 5-gallon bucket. We charge $25 a load to fill out the paperwork and check what it is and do all that. And that seemed reasonable to everybody, and it's not being changed. Last fall, council updated our sewer rates for BOD and TSS fees. And so we had tests that we've ran over the years on septic and porta potty waste, and the previous fees were okay for the old fees, but since we increased our fees to the customers in town, we have to increase the fees to anybody who hauls waste into. So the increases for septic and porta potty waste went from 8 cents a gallon. They're going to be proposing to go to 10 cents a gallon immediately. And then when BOD rates increase on July 1st, increase it again to 11. And then when the next increase goes into effect next year, we'll increase it again with that, just to keep keep it in line with the stuff we're charging people who are direct customers. Normal strength domestic waste is just regular sewer. So rather than having a septic tank, some people have just like a holding tank, and they don't actually treat their sewer on site, and they want to bring it to us to treat. And we were charging 8 cents a gallon for that, which makes no sense. The $25 fee covers us our time to do the paperwork for their truck coming in, but it doesn't cost any more to treat that than it does if someone in the county would be connected to our sewer system via a sewer main. So that cost, including the 25% increase for out-of-town customers, is about 1 cent a gallon. It's actually a fraction of a cent lower, but just rounded off to 1 cent. And the last category that we've actually had more of lately is landfill leachate. And we ran a lot of tests on these. We had an outside consultant. Well, we didn't have it. The landfill did. Had an outside consultant test their waste for us so we could see what was in it and give us a recommendation on whether it would affect our process. And their conclusion was it didn't affect our process. There's not a lot of BOD, there's not a lot of TSS in that landfill leachate. So the 10 cents a gallon, it wasn't reflective of what it actually cost us to treat it. So we're proposing to change that to 2 cents a gallon. Now, with that being said, any load that comes to the plant that's different than what it normally is, our guys get used to seeing these loads all the time. And if something looks different, we'll take a sample of it. And if it's a lot different, they'll send the truck away and we won't let them dump it until we actually get a result back from those tests. And if we get a test back that shows it being different from what it was, we'll charge them accordingly. City code allows us to charge additional fees or even reject loads that we think might contain contaminants that we don't want in our plant. So there was an upset at the county city landfill last summer. The leachate they brought in then was probably worth the 10 cents because it was not their normal leachate. But anyway, but normal landfill leachate is a lot of rainwater basically. And so the 2 cents makes sense from what the test came back as.
One of the things to help add clarity maybe is a little history of how we developed. Our lab, of course, has to be certified in order to operate. There are numerous tests we have to do throughout the entire week in order to keep our lab staff not 24/7, but 5 days a week. We have 2 lab people. So they actually, during part of the time, have time. We use this mechanism to actually generate a little bit of fund to offset their cost. When one goes on vacation, for instance, then that one that's left is extremely busy, almost to the point of being overloaded. So that's kind of a little bit of the background of how this developed in the last 20 years. It was used to kind of help fill that need. We were bigger than one person, not always full-time for 2 in the lab.
I guess just in summary, we're not trying to make more money here. We're trying to charge customers costs that are reflective of what the actual cost is to the plant. Not trying to increase profits or anything like that. Just making sure we're not losing money by providing the services and charging them equitably for what they're actually bringing there to the plant.
Any questions, Council? And you're comfortable that you'll be able to do this on a gradual basis and going forward so that, as you said, otherwise you could be coming back every so many months?
No, we feel like he built in 2 years of charges.
Yeah.
So I think we're aligned with the current rates.
Okay. No other questions? Then take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Ordinance number 3181, 2021, amending the Code of Ordinances by changing the zoning classification on property located at 105 South Vine from C3 Commercial Mixed Use District to C2 Community Commercial District. Recommendation: waive the second consideration of ordinance number 3181, 2021.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Give that to Holly. Okay, Zach, go ahead.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. We did present this item at the last council meeting, and this would be the second, or I guess we're asking you to waive the second. This would be the third consideration. The applicant is seeking rezoning from C3 to C2 in order to operate an auto sales lot. We described at the last meeting that the use is compatible with the district. There are 3 other auto sales or auto service businesses within 250 feet. And we also described the restrictions that would be placed here that are the same for every other auto dealer, the 200 square feet of maneuverable space for each vehicle, the parking on paved surface, all of those sorts of things. The commission or the Planning and Zoning Commission did approve this at the April 5th, 2021 meeting. There were no public comments at that meeting or at the public hearing during the last council meeting. So we are asking for the council to waive the second consideration, pass and adopt the ordinance tonight so that the applicant can begin pursuing his dealer license and open business.
Any questions for Zach?
Yes, so Zach, then there won't be a third reading?
Correct. This would be the last time is what we're asking.
So sometimes we waive second and third, but we're waiving the second and just going to the proposal.
Correct. Yes, we typically it would take the 3 meetings. We're trying to just do it in 2.
Any other questions? Take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Pass and adopt ordinance number 3181, 2021.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Don't think we need any further discussion unless there's a question. Okay, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Thank you, Zach. Is there any public comment for the council on any topic of city business? Seeing none, I'll make a couple of comments about communication. First of all, I want to recognize Sergeant Mike Siren this past week was recognized by the U.S. Attorney General from the Southern Iowa District for his outstanding work in crime victim advocacy. Mike's been with us over 12 years as an investigator, a policeman, and he's done great work. And I think it's a real tribute to the quality of the police that we have and his professional work. And the attorney that presented the award was very positive about the impact that this had on the family that he helped. Also, I would like to make a comment. We do have a city ordinance about mowing and grass going into the streets. And just driving around town, I've noticed a tremendous amount of grass in the streets, and it's dangerous for bicyclists and for motorcyclists. And so, not to mention it gets into our wastewater plant, and we have to treat that too. So for a safety reason, please turn your mowers so they blow into your yard, not out on the street. Just seeing a lot of them this last few days. I'd like to ask Phil to work with the Legacy and the hospital. We're trying to figure out where we're at with Blackbird and the property that they have, that they own out at the old St. Joe site. And I think it seems to me it's time for us to do something different. And I know that you've had some conversations with some of our partners, but I think we might want to look at, is there a way that we, the city, could make that land available to some local contractors and do some infrastructure work to make that more attractive for local contractors. So be thinking about that, council members, and give your feedback to Phil, and let's see if we can get moving on that, because we've given them plenty of time and nothing seems to be happening. We also had a trip today. We took, Cobblestone Hotels took 7 local potential investors to Wisconsin and looked at a Cobblestone Hotel. And we're still moving ahead with the idea of a hotel at Bridgeview, and hopefully we'll be able to report more in the next few weeks on that. We've had a complaint from a number of citizens about the train blocking the Black Hawk Road crossing, and it's been very frustrating. I've talked with our chief of police, I've talked with our staff about what we can do, and so we are having a conference call with the Canadian Pacific management people later this week to see what we can do. It just seems to be a very difficult thing for people who are out in that area. It can be blocked for anywhere from a half an hour to an hour at a time, and forces them to go out of their way to go around that intersection. And then lastly, May is also a month of Asian American and Pacific Islander recognition, and I was disheartened when I heard about the Asian woman who was challenged over in the Fairway area, south side of the town, and called names and accused of things that were just unbecoming of the Ottumwa citizens. And I think we should be recognizing the contribution all of our citizens have made to our community, and this has been something that is really more information is coming out. Other people are sharing some of their verbal attacks that have been taking place. Officer Bell did a great job, I thought, on the diversity phone call and Zoom meeting. And if you're ever in that situation, according to Officer Bell, turn on your cell phone and call 911 and let them know that you are monitoring, because the police can then respond even if you are unable to talk or are shocked at that time. But it certainly was not what we want for our citizens or our many different people who are here and contribute to our community. And this happened to be a 78-year-old woman who was just minding her own business. So enough said about that, but I think it was not representative of the Ottumwa spirit, and we want to take good care of all of our people who are new Americans here in our community. With that, I'll quit. Is there anything, council, individually, anything you want us to pay attention to? Hearing none, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Holly and Skip.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Thank you all, and good night at 7:27. And thank you, Maria.
Thank you, Mayor.